Captain Lisa Rodriguez paused on her way back from the latest fire. 3 fires, 3 different neighborhoods, but the burn patterns were identical. 18 years of ATF fire investigation experience told her this wasn't random. These fires are intentional, she told her crew. We have a serial arsonist. Before we dive into this incredible story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if this story moves you, make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I have something very special planned for you. The Mountain View Volunteer Fire Department had served the rural Colorado community for over 50 years, protecting an area of scattered ranches, small businesses, and residential developments that regular city fire services couldn't effectively cover. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had been leading Engine Company 3 for 4 years, coordinating a team of dedicated volunteers who balanced firefighting with their regular civilian careers. Of a T-46, Lisa brought a level of systematic precision to volunteer firefighting that impressed both her crew and the professional departments they occasionally worked alongside. Her approach to fire suppression, scene management, and safety protocols reflected the kind of advanced training that most volunteer departments couldn't afford to provide their members. Lisa's volunteer firefighters respected her leadership and trusted her judgment during emergency responses. She had an uncanny ability to read fire behavior, predict structural hazards, and coordinate complex operations that kept everyone safe while maximizing their effectiveness in protecting property and lives. What her volunteer crew didn't realize was that Lisa's expertise came from 18 years as an ATF fire investigator, specializing in arson cases and federal fire-related crimes. Her systematic approach to firefighting had been shaped by years of analyzing how fires started, spread, and could be controlled, knowledge gained through investigating thousands of suspicious fires across multiple states. Lisa had moved to Mountain View seeking the peace that came with using her fire expertise to protect rather than investigate, serving her adopted community through volunteer work that felt more personally meaningful than federal law enforcement had ever provided. The call came in at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Structure fire at the old Miller warehouse on Industrial Road. Lisa arrived with Engine Company 3 to find a building fully engulfed, flames shooting through the roof with the intensity that suggested accelerant involvement. The suppression operation took 4 hours, but Lisa's investigative eye was working throughout the firefight. The burn patterns, the rate of fire spread, the intensity of combustion all suggested this wasn't an accidental fire caused by electrical problems or spontaneous combustion. Captain called volunteer firefighter Mike Chun as they conducted post-fire assessment. This is the 3rd warehouse fire in 6 weeks. Think there's a connection? Lisa had been thinking the same thing, but Mike's question activated analysis protocols she'd used during 18 years of federal arson investigation. 3 similar fires, similar targets, similar time frames, the kind of pattern that required systematic investigation rather than casual speculation. After ensuring her crew completed suppression and safety procedures, Lisa drove to the sites of the 2 previous warehouse fires. Even weeks later, her trained eye could read the burn evidence that told the story of how each fire had started and spread. The pattern was unmistakable to someone with Lisa's background. All 3 fires showed evidence of multiple ignition points, accelerant use, and timing that suggested deliberate planning rather than opportunistic. Someone was systematically targeting industrial buildings in their community. That Lisa's analysis of the 3 fire sites revealed sophisticated arson techniques that suggested professional knowledge rather than amateur fire setting. The accelerant distribution patterns, ignition methods, and structural targeting showed understanding of fire behavior that most casual arsonists didn't possess. More concerning was the escalation pattern. The first fire had been contained to a single building. The second had threatened adjacent structures, and this latest fire had required mutual aid from 3 neighboring fire departments. The arsonist was either getting bolder or less careful about containment. Lisa's 18 years of ATF experience had taught her to recognize the behavioral patterns that distinguish different types of arsonists. This wasn't vandalism, insurance fraud, or random pyromania. This was systematic targeting that suggested specific motivation and advanced planning. She began documenting details that would be crucial for a federal investigation. Photographic evidence of burn patterns, analysis of accelerant residue, timing correlations, and target selection criteria. Her volunteer firefighter colleagues assumed she was being thorough about fire reports, but Lisa was actually building a case file. The fourth fire occurred 5 days later at 3:15 a.m., targeting a lumber yard that could have created a catastrophic conflagration if not for aggressive suppression by multiple volunteer companies. Lisa's worst fears were confirmed. The arsonist was escalating both frequency and potential impact. Lisa's first call was to a number she'd memorized but hoped never to use again. The ATF maintains contact protocol for retired investigators who might encounter situations requiring their specialized expertise. The response was immediate and concerned. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, investigator number 2847, retired 2020, she said when the secure line serial arsonist operating in Mountain View, Colorado, for confirmed fires with escalating patterns. Within 6 hours, Lisa found herself briefing ATF Special Agent Mark Sullivan about what appeared to be a sophisticated arson series targeting industrial properties in her rural community. Your preliminary analysis indicates professional-level fire-setting techniques, Agent Sullivan observed, reviewing Lisa's documentation. The accelerant patterns and ignition methods suggest someone with advanced training. Federal-level sophistication, Lisa confirmed. This isn't a local pyromania case. This is systematic targeting that could be part of a larger operation. The implications were significant. Rural communities like Mountain View were vulnerable to serial arsonists because their volunteer fire departments lacked the investigative resources to recognize patterns that crossed jurisdictional boundaries. Lisa's unique position as both fire suppression captain and federal arson expert made her invaluable for understanding the threat. We need you to maintain your cover as volunteer fire captain while assisting with the investigation, Agent Sullivan explained. Your access to fire scenes and your relationship with local responders provides intelligence capabilities we can't duplicate. Lisa found herself in the unusual position of investigating arson cases while simultaneously responding to them as a volunteer fire captain. Her dual role required maintaining operational security while gathering evidence that could support federal prosecution. Working with ATF investigators, Lisa implemented surveillance techniques designed to identify the arsonist while protecting her community from additional fires. Her volunteer crew became unwitting participants in a federal operation, providing legitimate cover for activities that appear to be routine fire department. The target selection suggests someone familiar with local industrial properties, Lisa reported during one of her briefings. The arsonist knows which buildings will burn hot, which ones threaten adjacent structures, and which ones will challenge our volunteer response capabilities. The investigation revealed that the arsonist was likely someone with local knowledge, possibly a current or former firefighter who understood both fire suppression tactics and community vulnerabilities. The sophistication of the fires suggested formal training in fire behavior and suppression techniques. Lisa's analysis proved crucial when the fifth fire was set at the community center during a town meeting, creating immediate life safety concerns that elevated the case to federal priority. Her quick recognition of the accelerant patterns allowed rapid evacuation that prevented casualties. This has moved beyond property crimes to potential mass casualty terrorism. Agent Sullivan told Lisa after reviewing the community center fire, "Your expertise may have saved dozens of lives." The break in the case came when Lisa recognized burn patterns that matched training exercises she participated in during her ATF career. The arsonist was using techniques taught in federal fire investigation courses, suggesting someone with law enforcement or military fire training. The accelerant placement and ignition timing match Level 3 ATF arson investigation training scenarios, Lisa reported. Someone learned these techniques through official channels. The discovery led to investigation of current and former ATF personnel, military fire specialists, and professional firefighters who'd received advanced arson investigation training. Within 48 hours, the suspect was identified as a former volunteer firefighter who'd been dismissed from another department for policy violations. James Mitchell had been using his fire suppression knowledge to set increasingly dangerous fires while positioning himself to appear heroic during suppression efforts. His psychological profile matched serial arsonists who sought recognition and control through fire setting and fire suppression activities that Lisa's recognition of the training-specific burn patterns provided the crucial link that connected Mitchell to all 5 fires. The arrest occurred during his attempt to set a 6th fire at the elementary school, where Lisa's surveillance had positioned ATF agents to intervene before ignition. The arrest of James Mitchell resolved the immediate threat to Mountain View, but Lisa's role in the investigation became public knowledge during the prosecution phase. Her volunteer crew learned that their captain had been a federal arson investigator whose expertise had protected their community from escalating terrorist-level threats. "Captain," said volunteer firefighter Mike Chun, "why didn't you tell us about your ATF background?" Lisa smiled as she checked equipment on Engine Company 3, the same systematic precision that had made her valuable to federal law enforcement, now serving community protection. "I came here to fight fires, not investigate them. But sometimes the skills overlap when they're needed most." The case received regional attention, but Lisa declined most interview requests. The volunteer fire captain who'd stopped a serial arsonist preferred to focus on preventing fires rather than analyzing the ones that had already burned. Mitchell was convicted on federal arson charges and sentenced to 25 years in prison. His systematic targeting of community infrastructure had been intended to create chaos that would position him as an indispensable hero during emergency responses. Your early recognition of the pattern prevented what could have been a catastrophic escalation. Agent Sullivan told Lisa during the case
Without your
expertise, this could have continued for months. Lisa returned to her volunteer firefighting duties with new appreciation for how her federal career continued to serve community protection. She wasn't just suppressing fires, she was safeguarding her neighbors from threats they might never recognize. Each call to a structure blaze, grass fire, or vehicle ignition carried with it the possibility that what looked accidental might be deliberate, and Lisa knew the signs better than most. Her years as an ATF arson investigator had trained her to see the details others overlooked: the unusual accelerant residue, the repeated ignition points, the way a fire spread unnaturally fast. Now, in her small community, those same instincts allowed her to protect people in ways they didn't even realize they needed. 6 months later, Lisa had consulted on 3 additional arson cases where volunteer departments had requested ATF assistance. Each time, her dual background gave her insight others found invaluable. In one rural township, a suspicious barn fire had been dismissed as faulty wiring until Lisa pointed out the irregular burn pattern consistent with accelerant use. In another county, she guided firefighters through preserving critical evidence instead of unintentionally destroying it with suppression efforts. Her unique position as both active firefighter and retired federal investigator made her a bridge between 2 worlds, one focused on putting out flames, the other on finding their cause. That combination quickly made her a sought-after instructor for training programs designed to help volunteer departments recognize suspicious fire patterns and preserve crime scenes for investigators. "People think firefighting is just about putting out fires," Lisa explained to a regional conference of volunteer fire chiefs. Standing at the podium in her turnout coat, she spoke not only as a captain, but as someone who had seen firsthand the destruction caused by intentional blazes. "We're also the first responders who can recognize when fires aren't accidents. That makes us crucial for protecting our communities from deliberate threats." Her words carried weight, not just because of her experience, but because the chiefs in the room knew they lacked the resources of large city departments. For them, every firefighter trained to see arson clues was an extra layer of defense for their communities. Her phone buzzed with a secure message from Agent Sullivan: "Possible serial arson pattern in Wyoming. Similar techniques to your Mountain View case. Available for consultation." Lisa's pulse quickened. She knew the Mountain View investigation, well, it had been one of the most challenging of her career, involving a careful hunt for a suspect who left misleading evidence at multiple sites. If the Wyoming fires matched that pattern, the situation was serious. She glanced toward her volunteer crew preparing Engine Company 3 for their evening training session. The younger firefighters were laughing as they checked hoses, tested ladders, and reviewed safety drills, unaware of the message she'd just received. Lisa looked past them at the quiet streets of her town, the homes and schools she'd promised to protect, and felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She typed her reply with steady fingers. I'll review the case files tonight. Some skills never really retire, they just find new applications and new communities to serve. Lisa Rodriguez, former ATF arson investigator, current volunteer fire captain, continued her work one fire at a time, one protected community at a time. She had come to believe that the most important investigations were not always carried out in federal labs or large cities, but in small firehouses where vigilance and experience could mean the difference between writing off a tragedy as bad luck and uncovering the truth behind it. The fireground and the crime scene were often the same place, and her ability to navigate both worlds gave her community an advantage few others had. She knew that sometimes the most crucial federal cases weren't solved by agents in suits, but by volunteer firefighters who still carried the instincts of investigators. And as long as flames threatened her neighbors, whether by accident or by intent, Lisa was ready to stand at the crossroads of firefighting and investigation, protecting people with every skill she had earned across her two careers. Have you ever used professional expertise from a previous career to protect your community in unexpected ways? Share your stories in the comments below, and let us know what city you're watching from today, that if this story of hidden expertise and community protection resonated with you. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And don't miss the two compelling stories appearing on your screen right now. Click and discover more tales of everyday heroes with extraordinary backgrounds. Because sometimes the most important federal investigations are conducted by people who chose to serve their communities as volunteers, bringing expertise that no one knew they needed until the moment it saved lives. See you in the next videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe.